That's my gavel.
Come to order.
7:10, opening the meeting. This is the October 5th, 2022 meeting of the Berlin Conservation Commission. This is an open session, open public meeting, and they are subject to being recorded. Your voice and image will be recorded. Light agenda tonight. First thing we have is approving the minutes from the previous meeting.
Boy, they were long.
When
Yeah.
did they go?
Yeah.
Good job, though.
Today.
Oh, okay, I didn't see
Yeah,
it.
okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Did everybody else see them?
I did not get to see them.
All right, maybe we
That
should
was
table
nice.
that. till-
Right, because we don't have enough people. Well,
4?
1, 2, 3.
I read it.
Did you read it?
Yeah.
Did you read it?
Mhm.
Oh, all right.
It was long.
Enough people, yeah.
And you read
I
it.
struggled, but I did. The whole thing.
Would you like to make a motion?
I'd like to make
accept
a
the
motion to
minutes?
accept the minutes from last week.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Walter seconded.
okay, thank you. So it's.
All those opposed? Just in case.
I didn't vote and AJ didn't
Right.
vote.
And no update on the treasury, no, I haven't seen
have you seen
anything.
any okay. I was gonna
No.
say, I haven't seen any paperwork. So I think we're still at the fiscal year end from 22.
Right.
We haven't spent much, though, I don't think we should, I mean, I don't think we've had any major.
No, I think the only thing we've spent any money on really is our MACC dues.
That was the big thing.
Yep,
So it's the same as.
usually is, but around this time of year.
Just keep with the June 30th, because we don't have any updated information.
Okay, so I'll just fill that in afterwards.
But now, your fees are all going through the town now, right? Okay,
Yeah,
so that makes it a
correct.
lot easier, too.
Yeah.
So
Right.
we won't have, we're not gonna have many transactions at all.
Right.
which is
Yep,
good.
it'll be back to normal.
Okay.
All right, bills and forms.
It looks like we did get a bill. KP Law.
Excellent. Huh, the last one was also inexpensive. What the heck is going on? Just waiting for the big one.
I got a lumberyard for under $100 this week. and
What?
I thought they made a mistake.
Right?
Or just billing us to send the bill.
Right, yeah, exactly. 15 minutes to calculate the bill. So the bill is for 20 minutes. Oh, no, it's for an hour and 20 minutes of work on Sudbury Valley land purchase. Right, so $168.
That still seems really cheap
Right?
for an hour and 20 minutes. Something is not right there.
We will gladly pay $168. And this is out of the Open Space Fund. And anybody want to see it? Anybody have any further questions?
I'll make a motion to approve paying KP Law $168 for Sudbury Valley trustees land acquisition.
Excellent.
I'll second it.
Right.
allowed to do that?
Yeah, can you second if you're ready?
Oh, I guess she can, yeah, she's
Yeah.
just taking the minutes.
And this
Yeah,
is,
you pay.
the bill is through August 31st. Yep.
Or
So I take that,
the bill
right?
is dated August
To
31st.
do
Up
the.
until-
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Up
And do you
Yes.
want to grab a form tonight and we'll all sign it?
Do they have them?
Do we have?
I thought,
Didn't we?
I thought we had,
Usually, I just do the cover sheet.
well, that's what I mean,
Yeah.
the cover sheet.
Do they have them here?
I thought
I
we
feel like we did
did.
last meeting.
I know. Where did, oh, because June was here.
Yeah, so
And
we're
June popped up and grabbed us
Oh,
one.
Right.
Not a
Um,
big deal.
All right, yeah, we can sign it next
Yeah, we
meeting.
used to do a bills payable form, we don't do that anymore.
No, we do, so that, but I think only you need to sign that, like, it's not everybody.
I think there's two forms. One everybody has to sign and one just I sign. Isn't there?
Don't we still have the thing, though, where you can sign up to like 500 or,
Oh, yeah.
so that, I think that's why it's not, yeah.
That's, yeah. Okay, let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Anything else?
This is the only other thing that was in the mailbox.
Oh. We'll post this right over. If anybody gets hurt, let Mary know. Basically.
Catch-
The post by employer
Oh.
notification, what to do if you get hurt. Yep. We can put that in the closet.
Oh. So that would be under
Written around
communications,
closet.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Could I just see this? or-
Sure. And
Interesting.
do you, all right, do you have it? Yep, go
So I
ahead.
have some inspection reports. So we did receive one for 28 Allen Road, inspection report number 2 from Patrick Garner.
Yep.
Did you guys
So
have a chance to review it?
I did.
Yeah.
Did you forward it to everyone?
I believe so.
Okay, yeah.
I saw.
I thought so. So, yeah, looks good. But they've not asked for a certificate of compliance yet.
No.
Okay. Um,
How anybody got anything to grow this summer? More water on it, I guess.
Yeah.
That's pretty good, huh?
Yeah,
Well done.
Driveway looks nice.
yeah. Hey. Come on in.
Did you want to see that?
Yeah. Actually, I think we sent the picture out too, right, with the email?
Yeah, I didn't
the-
have
yeah,
service this year.
yep.
Okay, there was also a report from Pat Garner too on Highland Ridge.
Yep. Yep. So we also have
Oh, this is
this
good.
report from September 22nd.
Right. So, all catch basin silt sacks have been replaced and remain functional. As a continuing comment, lower street section should be swept prior to every storm event. I'm sure he'll go out tomorrow and take a look at it and see after the rain past couple of days. Grass growth is robust in hydro-seeded areas. Silt fence and wattles and wetland areas remain functional. Overall site is stable. So, that's good. Just the street sweeping. Just gotta get them to finish up that corner and just get it done. Do you have anything else?
So we did have a couple requests for certificate of compliances. So we need to conduct a couple site visits in the next 2 weeks or so. So one of them's for 157 Lyman Road, which I think we went in the spring to check out, right?
Yep.
Oh,
And they
yeah.
hadn't.
Yep. That's the Alberts.
Yeah.
Yeah, the,
Yep. Way up in the woods.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, so Benedict said he was available tomorrow at 5:30, but also Tuesday and Wednesday of next week as well, if that worked for anyone to go visit. I know tomorrow's the Sudbury Valley Trustees
Right.
dinner.
I have wood turners.
Yeah.
Right. And then
You say Tuesday or Wednesday?
Yeah, Tuesday or Wednesday next week.
Yeah, I'm okay both days as long as,
Right.
Maddie, could I see those so I can write it down?
Okay.
I can't make either one, but I don't necessarily need to be there if,
What are you looking for?
Yeah.
The last two that you mentioned?
Oh,
The 11th?
with
No,
No.
for communications.
Oh,
the two reports.
Right. oh,
So
that
one was Allen Road and one was
oh,
Highland
okay, I
Ridge.
thought she mentioned something else.
So, yes, she didn't have it printed out. 2 people emailed for certificate of compliance requests.
Okay.
One of them
Who was that?
is 157 Lyman Road.
Oh, this is my like note taking
Yeah.
one.
And then she hasn't said the
Like,
address of
individually?
the other one. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Right, so next Tuesday or Wednesday? I know.
Wednesday before 2 PM, otherwise,
Wednesday after 4. Tuesday. No.
Okay.
Okay.
and not before 6 in the morning.
Not before
Right.
6
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I could do early in the morning. No problem. I didn't know that was a thing.
So I suggested like 5:30 because that's when I'm up.
In the eve?
Yeah.
Oh.
Does that work?
I could do that on Wednesday.
Okay, I could do that Wednesday.
Can you do that Wednesday?
It'd be close, but I think so, yeah. I mean,
Do you care
gymnastics is until.
if you go? Okay. All right. So Kyle, AJ, and Maddie,
Okay.
5:30
Yep.
next Wednesday,
Wednesday.
The 12th
the 12th.
at 5:30.
Yep.
For 157
I'd
Lyman.
have Gracie with me.
For 157 Lyman. Yeah, that's fine. He has kids and
That
dogs.
must be way up towards the end.
Yeah, it's pretty
It's
fun.
one of the Oberg pieces.
Oh, on the
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's
Yeah.
Wednesday, right?
There's a
Correct.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Default.
I do not envy
And if
that
my
driveway.
plans fall through, I will
Banana.
go, but as of right now, I have plans.
Cool.
Okay. And then the other,
Yep. There was another one for 247 Linden Street. The person's in the process of selling a house. So they would
right,
like
so
to.
Bill Naughton
Who was that?
across from you,
Mm-hmm.
247
I guess
Linden.
in 2009.
No, it's not on there.
They filed an NOI and got a order of conditions for a septic system and never got a certificate of compliance. And now he's selling. We were gonna try and just kind of turn it around, but it's part of the regs that we have to do a site walk.
Oh, I'll pass on that one.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'll do,
Yeah,
Yeah.
either way.
yeah.
You can walk across the street or not.
Right.
It's
So is it already sold?
No, they're scheduled to close on the 18th. So Maddie does have a potential workaround, so we don't
Yeah.
hold them up too much.
Yeah, so ideally if we can get out there to do the site visit, we can at least issue a letter saying we're going to recommend that, a COC is issued based on what we saw, kind of thing, assuming nothing's really wrong up
Yeah.
there.
Do you have the plan, the original plan? You have to take that.
So we should have that in our files. I haven't got to look yet, but yep.
What day are we doing that?
So they haven't sent me back any times. They're
Oh.
going to reach back out to their client and see what days work for it. So,
So we'll send an email out and see who can go.
yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Even the email's been quiet.
Yeah. The only other thing was that request for railways being in,
Oh, a public records
Yeah.
request, yes.
so I went on Mass Mapper and found
Right, so,
pictures of the land and where I thought the railroad was. But,
Peg, for a public records request for information that is public record, we don't have to do the legwork.
I don't believe so, no, as long as it's public record and the information is.
Right, because, so the one that came up this week about who still has railroad on their private land.
You should be able to search for that information.
Exactly.
I mean, it's
That-
not redacted information that you need to work.
No,
on
you
or
can go
anything.
right on Mass Mapper, click on it, get all the assessor's information, the homeowner, the address, and it's not
It's not
my
you. Did you give
job.
them that information?
I did not yet,
Okay.
because
I would
I,
just point them and just say this information is readily available, because I believe if you have to do the work, then fees apply.
great. And I don't even want to get paid to do it. It's public record. Go find it
It's like a
yourself.
per-page fee for everything that you're doing, so it'd be in your
Yeah.
best interest to go to.
Right, right. I just wasn't sure if I was allowed to respond that way.
What was the context of that request? Who was looking for that?
I have a guess.
A person wanted to know along the rail bed. Actually, I almost sent it to you, and then something shiny caught my eye. Land along the rail bed that is now in private hands that may still have iron rails on it.
Oh, okay.
This-
So were they looking to scrap or?
I believe so.
Oh, okay.
That is, if I read it,
I think
wasn't that?
they're looking to either for historical reasons or.
Oh, right, he did
salvage.
say, right, but to sell for,
Profit.
yes, for one reason or another. Either to sell to like museums for displays or whatever.
Okay.
When I
But-
was researching rail trail development, one of the sites I was looking at was talking about how you go about, lining things up and paying for it and so on. And it was very specific. It said, there are companies out there that will come in and remove the steel rails
Yep.
Yep.
and pay you for, some small fee. You found that too, Walter, right?
Yeah.
Well, we were gonna do that several years ago,
Yeah.
and, I don't know. That's just the town voted not to do it, so couldn't do it. But the company was ready to come in and strip the rail, cut the brush, take the rails, take all the ties, level out, do a basic leveling of the bed. Get it
Right.
ready for stone dust or pavement or whatever they want.
Right.
But
Yeah, and depending
Yeah.
on the price of the going rate of steel.
Right.
Because at that time, steel was very valuable, and then steel wasn't valuable at all.
Well, but now it's,
Yeah. So, okay.
So I came up with a map of that area. So I don't think we even own like the railway. Like looking at the parcel information.
Right, well, that,
It was
I,
just like,
right.
There's only a small
think- I'm
part that
assuming
we
it's this
actually own,
piece.
so.
Where are we
No.
talking about? by the
so
way?
off of Boylston Road. So
No,
like,
because that's
Snake
the
Hill.
aqueduct, isn't it?
So I think the aqueduct is this.
Yeah.
That
Right.
piece. And then,
Oh,
so this is, yeah, Snake Hill.
right. So this, right here,
yep.
is definitely the rail bed. So this property, and probably this property.
I think
Right, because they specifically said west of Four Corners, right?
Yeah, I think, or
And
just
Five
off
Corners,
of Boylston Road,
yeah.
something along those lines.
That
Well, the only
seems
private
odd.
property
Yeah.
that encroaches on that
Something's
that I
not
know
right
of
about
is
The whole thing.
that property behind Roos Garage.
That's the same neighborhood as the
Yeah.
other thing.
Yep.
It's an awful coincidence.
Is that a
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm
planning
thinking too.
garage?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because
So-
everything else is active
Yep.
over there.
That
You
was-
can't take the
Right.
tracks if it's active. As far as I know.
You
Right.
could try.
You know, yeah. I
Right.
think
So,
that's a
We
federal
looked.
one.
Yeah, you might be right.
Yeah, that's not a
Right.
good time.
Yeah, that's an interesting timing on that request.
mhm.
Okay.
Fun. Still no response from that email either. It's on my list.
Okay.
The other email that I saw that I was trying to get to was about the cherry tree. That's all set, right? Because I know it fell, but then there's no tree at all, so I don't need to do anything.
No,
Right.
I was
No,
up there
no.
a couple of days ago. It was
No,
still standing.
no. The limb fell off. The tree is perfectly sound. So just leave it there for now. And when the town, the boys take down the big oak side of the road, then it can drop. It's leaning right into that anyway.
All right, so
Right, it's leaning into our
Right,
side
but
of
if
the
it
rock
rains it now,
fence.
it would knock it, it'll get tangled up in the oak limbs and, it'd be a mess. But it's safe. It's sound.
okay.
Yep.
What
So-
property, is it private property or town property?
It's the tree that fell up next to Dave Westerling. So the tree, the
It's
tree
growing out of
may
the
actually be
rock wall.
on the line, because it's growing out of the rock wall. So some of the tree is ours and some of it's not, but yeah,
Cut it in half, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I would say probably more of it is on town land than not.
Okay.
Yep.
When I looked up where that branch broke off, it looks like there was some rot in the,
Yeah, there is.
is it, you don't think it's in the trunk of the tree, do you?
No,
Okay.
that piece coming over will be all right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm off the hook.
But, Jerry.
Yeah, I know. Well, that was, we all did the same phase in that. Yeah.
Already talked to Dave.
Okay. All right, anything else? Anybody have anything else?
Just down there on Maplewood. I went up today, as a matter of fact, walked the whole perimeter, there's no sign of anything flowing over.
Excellent.
And, getting in the water. So as far as I'm concerned, it's all right environmentally. I want to get a chance to look at the earth removal bylaws, 'cause they're pushing over and burying little
Trees.
I don't like
Yeah,
that, I don't know if it's in the bylaw not to do that or not. Who's the earth removal board now?
Mike Sawyer.
Mike Sawyer?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
You know?
Earthworks.
Yep.
You know him?
Holly's our
Yeah.
rep.
Yep.
Yep.
Holy hell.
Holly's on it. She's
Yep.
a
Is there a
representative.
committee or is it just one guy?
Oh, no, it's Mike and Paul McKelk and Bobby Wheeler.
Oh,
and
okay.
Holly. Mhm.
Yeah, so ask Mike if you get a chance.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll talk about the site walk and the forestry stewardship grant afterwards.
Yeah.
And
Same lot?
We're gonna move the camera over.
Right,
Can we
so-
take 5
well,
or 2?
yep. Do you want to come up and talk first before we do the presentation? Do you want to?
I just have a short intro, so,
Okay.
um,
Yeah, come on
where's
up,
it gonna
introduce
be?
yourself. So the,
I know, where's it gonna be projected to?
That's all we have.
Okay,
Yep.
that little bitty screen, huh?
yep, but the camera's going to move to the other side of the room and,
Okay, all right.
yep.
So would you like me to join you at the?
Yeah, please come up to the big
All
chair.
right, the big chair.
So just introduce yourself for our viewers.
All right.
I forgot to tell her
Right.
about the cookies.
Cookies? I was supposed to bring cookies? Well, I'm Ann Ribbons. I am married to someone sitting at this very table and have been for 41 years, but who is counting? I'm AJ's wife.
Because Kyle's not even that old.
Most people aren't.
Thank you.
And so he will be the brunt of many of my comments in this presentation. But we are both members of the Sierra Club, and we've been members for many, many years. And it wasn't until we moved to Massachusetts that we decided to get more directly involved. So we have been members of the Toxics team in the chapter for a couple of years. AJ's focus has been on cataloging all the artificial turf fields across the state, which has been a Herculean task. And I've been focused on plastic pollution. And this team does other things like works really closely on pesticides and issues like that. So it's been really eye-opening for me to get as deep in the weeds as I have around plastics. And I really have two requests of you folks as I go through the presentation. One is I'm hoping that I can create awareness across the community about this crisis. And so would like, your assessment of the presentation, what I could do differently or better. If I'm talking to a group at 19 Carter or a religious community, people at Mosaic, seniors, whomever, your feedback is going to be really helpful from that lens. And the second lens is, where do we go next? We've got the plastic bag ban. What else can we take on, and should we take on? So That's my charge to you guys. It'll take about 30 minutes, and then I want to open up the floor for questions, comments, feedback, and that kind of thing. So it's probably best if folks can...
I know, so if we turn off the
Presentation.
light, is that going to be a problem for the camera?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Should take a recess
right,
to
so let's
adjust.
take a minute, reset that. If anybody needs
Yeah, you might
to
wanna turn it off for a second.
go get popcorn.
Oh, boy. I
Oh.
can't, I can't see my notes. Sorry, folks.
Yeah, it's either all or nothing, so.
Okay, sorry.
Flashlight on your phone?
It should be fine.
The light's on.
We can see that, all right?
Yeah, it should be okay.
Yeah, I have no problem seeing
Yeah,
it.
There may
This
be
is-
a brightness adjustment on the.
No, I think it's fine, I mean.
Yeah, it's, all right, pretty straightforward. So, when you look at this picture, it's sadly familiar. You've seen plastic litter everywhere, along the highways, in the streets, on the beaches. You've driven past waste facilities where plastic refuse is spilling out. And you've probably taken part in our community cleanups where the predominant trash is plastic. You've seen pictures of fish and birds choked by this stuff. And these are the kinds of plastics you can see. As plastic breaks down, the hazards to our health and environment only multiply. And in this presentation, you'll hear about the monumental nature of plastic pollution and hopefully have a better understanding about why it's reached crisis proportions. Next slide, please, dear. So this is our agenda today. We're going to talk about the problems with plastic and how it's a threat to our health, the environment, and its contribution to climate change. And it wasn't until I really got into this that I made the association with plastic pollution and climate change. We'll talk about why it's so hard to make progress on change with respect to plastic. We'll share some solutions, current and future. And the hope is to motivate all of us to make small personal changes or preferably get involved in larger actions such as passing bylaws in our community or even working on the state level to address this issue, because collectively we can make a bigger difference. Next slide. So we're going to talk about the problems with plastic in these 4 categories. The first is the life cycle, where plastic comes from and how it's eventually disposed. We'll talk about health and environmental impacts. We'll talk a bit about the chemicals and toxicity of plastics. I'm not a chemist or a toxicologist, but I got a little bit of an education on that in preparing this presentation. And then finally, we'll talk about single-use plastics. So drilling down into the life cycle of plastics, as you guys all know, plastic comes from fossil fuels. The plastic production starts with the extraction of oil. Then chemicals and resins are added, which are not bound to the plastic polymer, so they leach out. Some of the processes to make plastic release toxic substances and carcinogens into our water, soil, and air. In the consumption phase, we find plastic in the packaging of products from food to most of our consumer goods. There's plastic in our synthetic clothing, our furniture, our coffee makers, basically in everything. Once discarded, plastic is either incinerated, dumped into overflowing landfills, or ends up as litter. It's important to note that greenhouse gases are emitted at every stage of the plastic's life cycle, from refining to production to the way that plastic is managed as a waste product, where it's contributing significantly to CO2 released in the atmosphere and consequently fueling climate change. The process of making plastic is so energy intensive that if the plastic industry were a country, it would be the 5th largest emitter of greenhouse gases in the world. A little more about the life cycle of plastic. People think they're doing their part by recycling, but most plastics aren't recyclable. Of all the plastic produced in the world, only 5% is recycled. And plastic doesn't biodegrade, it just breaks down into smaller and smaller bits. And when those pieces are 5 millimeters or less, they're called microplastics and are nearly impossible to remove from our drinking water, food, and air. Over the last decade, scientists have found microplastics in every environment they've tested, from the deepest ocean to the highest remote mountaintops, from the tropics to the poles, and most recently, in our blood. We're producing more new plastic at a much greater rate than we can possibly use or reuse. And to make matters worse, big brands are currently increasing their production of plastic, which threatens the global climate, communities, and ecosystems around the world. Unfortunately, marginalized communities, I know you talked about justice communities, bear the brunt of plastic pollution. Plastic manufacturing facilities and waste incineration facilities are usually located in these low-income, Black and brown, non-English speaking communities. If you look at where more than 90% of the climate pollution is released by the plastics industry, it's in 18 communities across the country. It begs the question, how would you like your life expectancy to be dependent by your zip code? And if we keep on increasing the production of plastic, which is already beyond the rate we can use and dispose of it, what does that mean for the world? And if only 5% is getting recycled, where does the remaining 95% go? Turning next to health and environmental impacts, thousands of chemicals are used to make plastic harder, softer, or more flexible. Many of these chemicals are endocrine disrupting compounds, also known as EDCs, and they can leach from plastics and cause hormonal imbalances, heart disease, greater risk of cancer, and reproductive issues. Plastic containing EDCs are found in our food packaging, our cookware, construction materials, our kids' toys, furniture, electronics, cosmetics, and so on. Perfluorinated chemicals, also referred to as PFAS, or forever chemicals, accumulate in the body and are used in Teflon cookware, the lining of food takeout containers, firefighting foam, and waterproof garments, among others. Animal studies show that EDCs can cause DNA modifications and have repercussions across multiple generations. When we consume food or beverages contained in plastic, we're ingesting microplastics and leach toxins. Animals and fish eat microplastics, and this becomes part of our food chain. Through normal water and food consumption, it's estimated that the average person consumes 5 grams of plastic a week, or about the size of a credit card. The entire ecosystem is affected. Every year, 8 million tons of plastic ends up in our oceans. And in less than 3 years, in 2025, the oceans will contain 1 ton of plastic for every 3 tons of fish. And by 2050, there'll be more plastic in the ocean than fish. This slide is something that really stunned me. You know, for years and years, AJ and I thought we were doing the right thing by recycling every bit of used plastic that came into our house, every little bottle cap, every little tiny piece, and we learned that was completely wrong. One of the problem areas with plastic is that their production can leach toxic chemicals and continue to off-gas throughout their life. The numbers 1 through 7 found on the bottom of plastic containers is not a recycling symbol, but rather indicates what plastic or resin the item is made from. Only numbers 1 and 2 are actually recyclable. Numbers 4 and 5 are too expensive to recycle, and 3, 6, and 7 aren't recyclable at all. I could give you examples of products that fall into each of those categories, but I thought I'd focus on number 6, which is polystyrene. And that's a common material for making single-use disposable plates and insulated cups, clamshell food containers, and these can leach benzene and styrene, which can affect lungs, our nervous system, and reproductive organs. Of all the tons of resins used to make plastic from 1950, which is the year my husband was born, just so you know, to 2015, half of it was produced in just the last 13 of those 65 years. And this shows how much the rate of production is increasing. It doesn't sound like a sustainable model to me. It's also important, and this I find really stunning and horrifying. It's important to recognize that children are the most susceptible to health impacts from chemicals found in plastics. We're going to turn our attention next to single-use plastics. In this day and age, we can't completely rid ourselves of all plastic, but we can at least take steps to minimize the biggest problem. And that's single-use plastics, which represent half of all plastic produced. They're used an average of 15 minutes and then discarded, and they're extremely difficult to remove from the waste stream. More than 1 million plastic bags are used every minute in the United States. Americans also use 50 billion single-serve plastic water bottles a year. Every second of every day, 1,500 plastic water bottles are discarded. And the process of producing bottled water requires 6 times the water that's actually in the doggone bottle.
Wow.
Stunning. Packaging is the largest single-use market segment, accounting for over 40% of the total plastic usage we have. And the U.S. produces more plastic waste per capita than any country. And it's not just food packaging that's a problem. Amazon's plastic waste increased 33% in 2020 with their air pillows, bubble wrap, and plastic lined paper envelopes. Amazon produced more than 500 million pounds of plastic waste just 1 year last year. So much that their waste could circle the globe 500 times. I'm not kidding. Let's take a look at some of the barriers to change. Simply banning plastic outright, we know isn't feasible, since plastic is present in every area of our lives, from healthcare to cars to building materials to our coffee makers. However, single-use plastics and certain household items don't have to be plastic. Our plastic consumption is cultivated by our throwaway culture, and because it's cheap and convenient. It's also fueled by the oil and gas industry's efforts to sustain high plastic consumption while distracting people with recycling campaigns. Disinformation campaigns by oil companies blaming us, consumers, for not recycling plastic are used to distract from the real problem, that recycling is rarely contributing to reuse in new products. Today's recycling processes and infrastructure are grossly insufficient to manage the complexity and quantity of plastic waste. And it's in these companies' best interest to continue creating new virgin products to make more money. Another reason plastic waste and pollution is amassed so quickly is, unfortunately, the lack of federal legislation to regulate plastics. Currently, there are no federal laws restricting single-use plastic, the highest contributor to our plastic waste crisis. And the U.S. has left it up to individual cities, counties, and states to decide whether or how to regulate plastic at all. With the transition to more renewable power, like electric vehicles, solar, and wind, oil and gas companies are now doubling down on plastic production as their major growth market, and they're investing heavily in lobbying to obstruct the passage of greener laws. So to summarize the nature of the problem, I wanted to kind of draw your attention to the 3 areas I mentioned. The first is health impacts. We've talked about how many chemicals, including endocrine disruptors, are added. Animal studies show that EDCs can cause DNA modifications over multiple generations. And we know there are plastics in our food chain and in our blood. On average, we do consume the equivalent of a credit card of plastic every week. The human body wasn't meant to process plastic. Environmental impacts. It's shocking to think that by 2050, the year my husband turns 100, there will be more plastic than fish in the oceans. It's equally eye-opening that 50% of plastic produced is only used once, for an average of 15 minutes. Changing the status quo is hard. It's tough to get people to think or use alternatives because plastic is so cheap and convenient. But only 5% is ever recycled. Most ends up in landfills or isn't recyclable at all, even though the petrochemical industry tries to tell us otherwise. The industry is a powerful lobby, blocking laws to regulate plastic. You know, we can see our electric and gas bills go up, so we curb our use. But we can't always see the impact of plastics in our environment or to our health and well-being. And so it's easier to turn a blind eye, especially with so many other concerns and demands bearing down on us. So with that pleasant introduction, let's take a look at some solutions. We talked about the vast reach and the devastating effects of plastic pollution. So where are the solutions? Where do they lie? Well, the main goal is to lower plastic production and use, and the low-hanging fruit is targeting single-use plastics. Disposing of it costs our cities and towns more and more every year, and the companies making single-use plastics don't pay for the waste management of their products. That would be us. We do. What if plastic makers were held financially responsible for their products' end-of-life costs? A forward-looking piece of legislation was just passed by the state of Colorado this year. Their new producer responsibility law requires manufacturers to pay dues into a state fund for the plastic packaging on products. We're going to talk about plastic bans that Massachusetts has implemented, and while these efforts are admittedly here and there, at least there's a foundation to address plastic pollution in our state. So the three categories of actions that the Sierra Club is proposing are banning single-use plastics, and this is important because these products make up the majority of plastic waste. The second recommendation is to install hydration stations because these vastly decrease the use of single-use plastic water bottles. And finally, though individuals can certainly change their buying habits with respect to plastic, we're trying to do that. The biggest impact comes from legislation and influencing corporate funding. So the next slide, please. Taking a look at action number 1 to reduce plastic use, and that's to pass single-use plastic bans. Why ban? Well, we've made the case that single-use plastic is devastating our environment. It makes up half of all plastic produced and in the waste stream, not biodegradable. Only 5% is actually recycled. Most ends up in our landfill or is incinerated, which, as we've heard, is bad for our health and the environment. And plastic production has outpaced recycling by 5 times in the last decade. So what are the opportunities to establish community bans? Well, the Sierra Club is proposing these 4. Food packaging, beverage containers, including plastic water and soda bottles, plastic bags, where thankfully we already have a ban in our community, and plastic straws. In Massachusetts, all these forms of plastic have already been banned in a wide variety of cities and towns, but there's still more work to do. Let's take a look at where some of the bans exist today. For food packaging, there are bans in 54 cities and towns in the state. And right now, there are 2 acts in our state house that fall into the category of food packaging. The first is an act to reduce packaging waste, and it's proposing that on or after January 1st of next year, all retail food establishments will use food service that's biodegradable, compostable, recyclable, or reusable for any food prepared or packaged on the premises. The second is an act to ban PFAS in food packaging, and it would prohibit the sale of food packaging products, also starting next January, where PFAS has been added in any amount. It was interesting for me to find out that Yelp announced a new searchable attribute in their platform, and with this new attribute, consumers can find plastic-free eateries, bars, and cafes. Cool to be able to have that. In terms of beverage containers, as of last November, single-use bottled water bans have been passed in 25 communities across 7 counties. And it was heartening to know that Concord, Massachusetts was the first to do that over 10 years ago. No plastic water bottles allowed there. Plastic bags in Massachusetts, our citizens use more than 2 billion with a B plastic bags a year and a 15-minute lifespan per bag. There's no systematic way to recover plastic bags from our lakes or oceans, and their aerodynamic qualities make them a huge source of plastic pollution. As of last year, though, there are now bag bans in 148 communities, including ours, and that covers about 60% of the population. And my thanks to you guys for making that happen. Plastic straws. Over 500 million plastic straws are used every day in the United States. But communities like Somerville are leading the way. Their retailers are no longer allowed to offer single-use plastic straws unless a consumer specifically asks for one. And the truth is, you don't need a plastic straw. We've got paper, we've got bamboo, we've got metal. It's all available to us. So the next slide is, and this slide is for anybody around the state, how to pass a plastic ban in our community. The first step is to do a little bit of fact finding, identifying key people to lead the ban, and that's not just legislators, it's constituents like us who influences our decision makers, and then raising awareness. As I mentioned early on, my hope is to deliver this presentation more broadly in the community. What audiences are fundamental to gaining support for the ban? I'm sure you all have ideas about that. And then the next step is drafting a bylaw, but thankfully, because there's so many precedents around the state, we've got model language to draw from. And then we would need to modify the language of the bylaw for our community. And then once a date is set for our town meeting, we just have to get out the vote, as always. The Sierra Club also offers a toolkit for any community that's interested in going this direction. The second action we're proposing to reduce plastic use is to install hydration stations, which I had never heard of actually until I was doing this presentation. In public buildings and schools. I've been taking classes over at Assabet over the last few years. They've got hydration stations everywhere. And I looked at the counter and it was like 20,000 bottles saved, 30,000. And this is one school. So this is a typical hydration station that's mounted to an existing drinking fountain. Next slide, dear. Don't sleep on the job, please.
I did miss my nap today.
I know you did. The goal with hydration stations is to reduce plastic bottle use and keep it out of the landfill. Units retrofit to existing bubblers or drinking fountains, and users can just fill their water bottles hands-free. In schools and public buildings, people have really supported the technology for the simple reason that the water tastes better, because there's a carbon filter that takes out small particulate matter from the tap water. Stations have counters, as I mentioned, so users can easily see how many plastic bottles have been saved from the landfill. And Caroline and I were talking about, is there a hydration station in this building? And I don't believe that there is. Yeah. Hydration stations are affordable. They cost around $900, and they're quite easy to install. And the Massachusetts chapter of the Sierra Club has a checklist and tips for groups interested in having hydration stations installed in public buildings and schools. The third act that we're proposing is the most far-reaching, and that's to support the passage of state laws. And to do that, the first thing is to become an informed constituent. And you guys are doing the right thing right now by learning more about the crisis and what to do about it. Organizing our neighbors in the broader community is where grassroots climate change goals are met. And the Sierra Club is available to support us in those efforts too. And finally, advocating. And that can take two forms. Sometimes the attempt is to persuade our legislators to kill a bill outright. For example, when an industry, let's just say oil and gas, is trying to expand its foothold by gaining permits to build new plastic manufacturing facilities. Other times, advocates convey information to persuade our legislators to actually expand a bill. If a pending bill isn't broad-reaching enough, let's say it's to eliminate PFAS, we could seek to have the language modified. I was interested to find out that the Conservation Law Foundation is working in New England on a zero waste project. And with that approach, the goal is to minimize the amount of trash sent to landfills and incinerators from the get-go. So what else can we do? Another sadly familiar picture on this slide. The first is to continue to educate ourselves. The Mass Chapter website of the Sierra Club is just loaded with great information about this crisis. Beyond Plastics is another organization we found out about. It's out of Bennington College in Vermont, and it's led by Judith Enck, who was a principal at the EPA in the Obama administration. That woman is a genius and very persuasive about this topic. The third organization is the Conservation Law Foundation, and their website is also full of really amazing and helpful information. They are also pushing a plastic bottle ban in all 6 New England states. We have a reference list that's accessible out of this presentation that has all the sources we use to make it, as well as organizations that we can tap into. Similarly, social media is a powerful tool and a way to have our voices heard. We can also be good examples by bringing our own bags to stores, by buying alternatives like glass, or simply refusing plastic at the point of purchase. AJ is just amazing at doing this. He refuses it every single time. And because he's got a loud voice, maybe it's all those years in the Army, I don't know. But people around him take notice. It's kind of like, wow. And, you know, it matters. It really does. Just saying no matters. The other thing we can do is sign petitions. It takes very little time. The Sierra Club provides direct links to legislators for petitions. It's easy to do. We can tell Lori Trahan to support the Break Free from Plastic Act. It's the only one I know of at the federal level that addresses single-use plastic. It would require producers of plastic packaging and products to create and finance their own waste and recycling programs. And that would put the cost of plastic pollution on the industry that creates the problem. It would prohibit specific single-use plastic bags and products that aren't recyclable. Another option is to start local groups or to join a group that's working on these issues. Our final slide is takeaways, things I'm hoping you'll walk out with this evening. The first thing we have to do is lower consumption, because this crisis isn't going to be solved through recycling, because plastic production has outpaced recycling by 5 times in the past decades. Individuals can help by practicing 3 R's: refusing the stuff, reducing its use, and reusing the plastic we already have. We can select alternative materials like glass, especially for food and microwaving. We can continue to educate ourselves by going to the Mass chapter of the Sierra Club website for more information about the crisis and our local and legislative options to address it. We've got to be examples to other people when we're offered single-use plastic items. We can put pressure on manufacturers. We can contact companies and restaurants when we see plastic, especially single-use plastic, in their offerings. And finally, we can put pressure on our legislators with local bans, through state legislation, like the Break Free from Plastic, like the Act to Reduce Plastic Packaging Waste, and an Act to ban PFAS in food packaging. And finally, at the federal level, we can ask Lori Trahan to support the Break Free from Plastic Act. I know she already does. So I think the green box at the bottom of this slide really summarizes the issue. The explosion of plastic in just a generation has contributed monumentally to greenhouse gases, which fuel climate change, creating food, water, and air insecurity for all of us. The bottom line for this crisis is that we are at a tipping point, and there is no planet B. So I'm happy to answer questions, get your feedback, your comments. Would love to know your thoughts about the appetite for additional single-use plastic bans here and what it would take to make that happen. For folks out there too? Yes, ma'am. Let me move around so I can see you.
Do you have a question?
I do. I didn't have a question last night, so I'm
Right.
saving it to
All
tonight.
right.
And you said the cost for hydration station was around $700?
$900 a unit, yeah. We did some research online. LK is one of the major manufacturers, and there's another one that I can't remember right off the top.
Yeah, that pricing is right. We've priced them up for different, in construction too, yeah, but that is the installation, but even still, it's like, it's not a huge
Is
cost.
that to the piece that goes over an already in place?
No, you buy a new unit.
Yeah.
So it's the whole bubbler,
Yeah.
it's the whole thing.
Yeah, it comes as a unit, and it's like you said, not like $900 or so plus installation.
How often do you have to replace them? And I'll tell you why I'm asking all these questions, where I'm going.
The
okay?
filters, you mean?
Yeah, anything, maintenance, replacement,
Filters. Do you use them at all?
ish.
What are you getting?
I can tell you the experience of someone in the Sierra Club who worked on getting hydration stations installed in their public schools. The issue right now is making sure the filters will address PFAS, and they're not there yet. So that's something we'd have to really look into. Long story short, I don't know how often the filters need to be changed.
Because I'm wondering, I look at the bills, I don't pay that close attention to them, I guess I need to now. I'm wondering how much this building is spending on bottled water. And also spending there. Wondering if there's any possible way to say, hey, you're spending, making it up, $1,200 a year on water, which is killing the system. Would you think about this, so it's cost beneficial, the town is actually saving money in doing that, and then maybe going to BMS and doing the same thing. How much are they spending, and see if there's any fundraising, or I don't know how many kids are in the school, but if there's any way to make BMS mugs, little drink things that you can give away, so every kid has one strapped to their backpack, so they just go up and, instead of bringing it in. Because I'm thinking if you start locally and get like a win here or there, then it's gonna grow with that. So I'm thinking that's probably your first step here, is to find out how much this building is spending annually between what we spend, what police spends, what fire spends on water versus cost of,
Hydration
System.
station.
yeah. Okay.
I
Yeah.
would bet it would offset pretty quickly. I think you'd get a return on that pretty quickly.
Okay.
Is there a way to quantify the waste management element of it too? Not just the water usage, but what it costs to haul away all those plastic bottles and deal with that on the back end?
Gotta imagine you have invoices, right, for what it
Yeah.
costs?
But I'm wondering too if it's just a disposal fee, that it's not $20 for a trash bag and $30 for plastics. It's just,
All
Take it
all
out.
in the same stream, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But it's still those heavy-duty plastic jugs and,
yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, so it might be worth it. I can put an email into the town accountant and find out, and then can work with you to maybe come make a selection.
It was
A
like,
presentation to the select board.
mhm.
To see what
It
we
was
can do.
really interesting for me to walk around all the hallways in Assabet, and they're everywhere. Their hydration stations are everywhere, and those counters were stunning. I
Well,
don't
the
know how
airports are in
long.
the hundreds of thousands.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just flew to Texas and back.
I even found one in an airport in Texas. One.
Yeah, they're not real abundant, but you can find
Yeah.
them.
At the school, I would think you could, I don't know what they need for power, but I would think wherever you have a bubbler, existing bubbler, you already have water there, so.
Well, and that's
That-
just it, and
that
that's
makes
what you
it-
need to figure out, you know,
Yeah.
are you gonna have to do something with the electric? What are you gonna do for maintenance? What are you gonna do for filters?
Yeah.
If that cost, again, making it up, is $10,000 a year, but the cost of buying stuff is 50 cents,
Yeah.
people are gonna lean, so you've gotta get them at least somewhat equitable.
I think you'd be surprised. I think if you're bringing in water, that's expensive.
Of course they're bringing in water.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're all lined up on the side of the wall when you walk up the
yeah.
stairs.
So that stuff isn't cheap, so I would imagine.
At BMS?
Aren't they
Here,
here?
Oh.
too?
there's a vending machine right when we walk in.
Yeah, I guess there is.
You're talking about the 5-gallon bottles that are,
The
yeah.
big
Yeah.
bottles, aren't they at the end of the hall?
Oh, I
They
thought
were
you
at
had
the
little
end of the hall
bottles.
at one point, so
Mhm.
I don't know.
if
Right.
each bottle costs times per month.
Right.
Yeah,
So again, start locally before, because people may not want to get involved with, I'm not writing my senator, I don't care, I'm not writing my, but if it's here, and there's not that many people in the building, there's only, I don't know, not many town employees. Might
But
be-
even still, people coming in for
Coming in,
meetings,
right.
people coming in and out.
Right.
I think
Um,
the only issue in Berlin is it's a well, not a public water supply, and there's only a couple in town. So-
Couple public water
Yeah.
supplies.
So that's why I don't think there's bubblers here, and I'm not sure, I'm pretty sure that's part of it.
No.
Are there even
Because
bubblers in this
most,
building?
Assabet's
No,
on
That's what she's saying.
Marlboro's water
That it would
system.
be cheaper
with
to put
chlorine
a
and-
bubbler in
Right.
with the
When I went
water
to school
thing.
here, we had bubblers.
Yeah, we had bubblers.
Huh.
Yes.
Pretty sure they have
Bubblers.
BMS.
That's
As
what they
we
call them
say.
in my
Bubble.
school, too.
Yeah,
Yep.
bubble.
Bubbler.
Bubbler.
Are the Coke bottles, what, are they recyclable, the
Soda bottles?
soda bottles?
Well, they're number 1 or 2, but
The plastic ones or the glass ones?
Plastic
Yeah.
ones?
Yeah.
Do they have glass ones
Yeah,
anymore?
hardly.
Yeah, the good
yeah,
Coca-Cola
the
ones
good
with the real
Mexican
sugar.
Coke, yeah.
Yeah.
We should,
Right.
Come on now.
you know, get the water bottles included in the deposit thing, and the deposit should go from 10 cents to 40 cents anyway, and that's one way of dealing with it. And just, I'm listening to you talk there, and I'm thinking, I was in the legislature when we passed the bottle bill in the late 70s, and the behind-the-scenes thing, honest to God, the speaker's getting all this money from those companies that run the Democratic Party, and it's just tough. And I represented Air and Littleton, very fine juices. Oh, God, they come on pretty strong. So
Right.
you got to deal with the legislators. And
trouble is to your point about I don't think people have realized until very recently that most of the stuff doesn't get recycled, so even
Right.
increasing the fee is not gonna solve the problem. I mean, unless you're raising money
They're still
for
being
something
made.
else. Yeah, they're still being made, so.
Right.
Right.
I would say if you, I would focus a little more on that in the presentation too, because I don't think people realize enough, like, that, you know, all this effort that we put into thinking that we're recycling, you know,
Right.
is really not. And then, I know a few years ago at the transfer station, I forget what the issue was, but like, they used to ship the recyclables over to India, I think, and then
China.
and
Well,
then,
China.
now they just ship them to China.
No.
Oh, they don't ship them
No,
to China?
that, well,
China
that's,
China quit taking them 4 years
Or was that
ago.
or-
right,
No.
and that's
Okay,
really
so maybe that's what it was,
when the
yeah.
awareness that I've
Yeah.
noticed has started to
Yes.
become more. We can't ship our plastic problem overseas now.
But the fact that we were even doing that in the first place
Oh, yes.
was shocking.
Right.
Like the thought that
Yes.
you're like putting your trash and shipping it halfway around the world is insane.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
There was
So-
talk that the COVID virus was started because all the trash was going to China, and a lot of it wasn't clean and everything, and you were having, you know, you were getting trash from all these different countries, so all, you know, that might have caused the COVID virus. Just the intermingling of all the germs from all the different parts of the world. It's an interesting concept.
I was watching some, you know, environmentalists both in India and in Indonesia showing pictures of their plastic pollution.
Oh, it's horrific.
Staggering.
Staggering.
Oh, the stream.
Yeah.
Go to South
Right,
America.
because they don't
South
have
Africa.
places to ship it.
It's unbelievable.
They
Well,
have
that and they're
to
getting
sit
paid,
in
some of
it.
those places are
Right.
getting
Paid to take
receive
it. Right, exactly.
So, but
Yep.
like the environmental impact of just shipping that stuff too is a whole other issue.
Right.
Exactly right.
Yep.
yes.
So,
This,
The-
you know, just the sociology aspect of it, just, you're gonna love me for this. I grew up without carrying a bottle of water around. Who ever heard of getting bottled water? That is the biggest fraudulent hoax in the world.
I remember when
I would no more carry this around and let people see me sipping on a thing of water. I'm telling you. And you can't even deal with that.
I worked at a convenience store in high school, and I remember when we started selling gallons of water, and people would come in and be like, "You're selling water?"
Yeah.
Like, and people are buying it? Yeah, it was, but the part about, so this is now my second time seeing Ann's presentation, and the part that strikes me the most is the fact that these companies are making all of this waste and then blaming us for not
yeah.
recycling it, for
Yeah.
not throwing it away properly
Yeah.
or
Well,
whatever.
that's why I think we need to focus more on the fact that it's not getting
Reduce.
recycled,
Right.
period.
Right.
Yeah, and we just need to,
Yep,
Yeah.
and, but that packaging needs to be rethought.
yeah.
Oh, everything comes in plastic now.
Right.
Right.
You know, it legislation.
And not just one layer of plastic, but Carolyn and I were talking, you go to the grocery store and cookies are triple wrapped
Right.
in
Right.
plastic. They're the individual serving, then multiple servings within the bag, and then the bag.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
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 And it's almost impossible to find juice in glass bottles.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Anything in glass is tough.
Right.
And of course, if you get a cardboard carton of juice, it's lined with PFAS. Have a nice day.
Yeah,
And enjoy your juice.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
What I find
Well-
interesting is, you know, like, if you donate to an environmental group, one of the prizes that they send you are plastic, reusable, but they're
agree.
plastic.
It
Yeah.
makes no sense.
And
Yeah.
they might even be made in another country.
Probably.
You know,
Yep. Miss Peg?
Have you talked to the Board of Health on this? Because here's my thought, is that where you said, you know, 1 through 7, it was only really what, 1 and 2 that were really recyclable. So I guess my question to them would be, and they may not know, because right now they collect everything. You just take it and you dump it in the bucket in the back, and then they take it and they dump it over the thing. So I don't know if it's possible where if you talk to them about, hey, recycle 1 and 2, 3 through 7 can just go in the trash. trash.
I think that's what they do anyway, the transfer station, isn't it?
Oh, no. You
Yeah,
walk
yeah,
over and
so-
you put all your plastics in a big bucket, and then they pick up the bucket and they dump it over into a bigger bucket.
But I thought,
Mhm.
I thought the rules always said only bring 1 and 2s, and then, I don't know, I only have
Everything
a,
goes in there, so
I
I don't know,
haven't
so
seen
that
that
might
rule
be maybe
anywhere.
your next step,
Right.
is to talk to Board of Health and see how tight their recycle is, and if they can truly recycle, or if they just dump.
Well, and really, plastic isn't recyclable at all, because even for numbers 1 and 2, the energy that's consumed and the additional chemicals that are required to refine it, you know, we thought for the longest time, wow, they're taking our plastic bottles and they're making decking materials out of that. Finish that story.
And as soon as you touch a saw to that decking material, you just created a cloud of microplastics.
Yep.
That are not recoverable and are not containable, and
And then when the end of life for that
Yeah.
decking.
Where does it go?
is
Right?
Where does it go?
Exactly, it's like,
Right?
oh, God.
I feel singled out. I
Kyle's a
didn't-
Right,
contractor,
but-
he built a
right,
plastic
but
deck for
then-
Sue.
You know, like, the wood at least decomposes. The plastic, once its useful life is over, what happens to it?
Well, like vinyl siding, you just go to the dump and press the button. It goes with everything.
That's
else.
all, it's just magic. It just press the
I
button
don't-
and it goes away.
It's beyond me, but beyond my pay scale.
Right.
You just go and dump
Well,
it.
and then
But
there's the
that's-
whole issue of artificial turf, which we could spend the rest of the, you know, next 5 evenings talking about. And that is really, really bad.
How often do they replace that? I thought it was good forever, that was the
No.
point.
No.
10 to 12 years
Oh,
is typically what I found.
huh.
but I think, didn't they have to go through and replace a lot of them? Because like the old rubber was like cancer causing,
Yep.
and they've changed.
So is the new. It hasn't improved much. It's
Yeah.
coated with PFAS,
Yeah.
one of those forever chemicals. Right now, if you go to Craigslist, you can find it for sale, used artificial turf for sale. You could, you know, how much would you need for your backyard?
Yeah.
Yeah, geez, you got a big
Right.
backyard.
And I was just
Acre.
in
What
do you do with
Texas,
it?
everybody's, if you see grass, it's not real. There is fake grass everywhere.
What?
I would just say
Everywhere, 'cause
no,
they
I
can't-
wouldn't want my kid playing on that stuff.
Right.
Or granddaughter,
Yep.
or.
And the chemicals leach down into the soil with the rain.
Precisely.
What if it
Um,
doesn't get rained on?
Well, then it won't leach.
Okay. Okay.
It's gonna off-gas throughout its entire life.
Right.
Yep.
So if you astroturfed your basement, that probably wouldn't be good.
No, because then you're containing all of the off-gassing in that enclosed space, especially if you go in and you take the spray foam and you fill in all the gaps where any fresh air might come in.
It's one of the reasons we have sick building syndromes, is all of the chemicals that are off-gassed from carpeting and insulation and
Yep.
all of that stuff.
Well,
Bad-
the bottle bill did bring attention to the use of throwaway plastic bottles, and it is successful. And if it were jacked up, people would buy about 25 cents, and at least if it helps get the bottles in one place instead of out windows and all over the place, at least that would be
Like our front
one
yard.
part of it.
Right.
And it would have to have some sort of negative pushback on just buying the
But I would
things
think
in
in
the
town,
first place.
since we got the bag ban passed, I wouldn't think it would be that hard to pass single-use plastic water bottles. Not that we have a ton of.
In Berlin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in Berlin.
Let me point out one more thing about single-use bottles. There are these little
Nips.
adult
Yeah.
beverage bottles called nips. They're
Oh.
they're not recyclable or recoverable in any way.
Right.
On
Oh.
top of being consumed, I think, a lot by
Everywhere.
drivers.
Everywhere. They're consumed everywhere. Find
Yeah.
nips, plastic nips everywhere.
Everywhere.
Right.
In the woods,
Yeah.
going down the
Well,
street,
I think I told you
everywhere.
about the couple I met in 40 Caves, a couple that walk there all the time. And he said, I'm picking those nip bottles up all the time.
Yep.
Out at 40 Caves on the trails. Sorry.
Yeah. It's,
I think one of the things, like I go shopping in Clinton quite a bit, and they have not banned plastic bags.
Yeah, Marlboro hasn't either.
And I find that the people that pack the bags, they'll put 2 items in a bag and grab. I mean,
And
you-
double bag the bags.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've always
Yeah,
done
I mean,
that.
you see
Yep.
people walking out with a cart and there's like 20 or 30 bags in that cart.
Yeah, for 50 items.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And they last 15 minutes at the most. and-
Right.
yep.
They always rip.
Well, I
That's why
found-
they double bag them, because they always rip, or that's why they always put only a couple of things in.
Right.
It's, yeah,
But I mean, the cart is just overflowing and it's all plastic bags.
yep.
I did a dive in Bali at 100 feet in the ocean, 100 feet down. There was a plastic bag that had caught on a statue. It's called the Garden of the Gods. And there was a plastic bag that the currents had, and it was caught on that statue at
And to
100
see all the
feet.
animals
Yep.
that
Yeah.
get
And
strangled
they've
with
found
that stuff.
microplastics at the top of Everest.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So, anyway,
Yep, anyway, so
Moving along.
we need to pick a date for our hybrid presentation.
Okay.
Peg, do you know who regularly meets in that room? If
ZBA?
any- ZBA, right? And they are Tuesday nights, but sometimes.
Correct.
ZBA is still meeting on Zoom.
Sometimes they meet in there, depending
they?
upon what it is. Yep.
I don't think they have in the last year or so, 2 years.
Yeah, planning doesn't meet in there, finance is across the hall, conservation's, personnel's across the hall,
Right. Board of Health is not there.
yeah. So it's probably pretty open.
Okay.
And if you want to write something up and send it to me, I can send it to Mary, and we can get it out on the town website and then push it, and then if you give me enough notice, I can take that and get it to the item and maybe beg and plead and see if they'll get it out so more people will be aware.
How much, I mean, just a little paragraph, or what are you looking for?
Little paragraph,
Okay,
little paragraph.
easily done.
All right, and then reach out to our town administrator and Fred Cummings, our highway guy, and see whatever date that you have, if they can get it up on the Blinky sign. I know that Chief Shatton is a little about using the Blinky sign because people slow down and look at it.
You're talking about the one that's by the bank?
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
just-
Blinky sign.
He doesn't like people slowing down through downtown?
Well, because if you're reading it, you're not watching the road, you're doing
Right.
this.
Especially
It
at
is
that
distracting.
intersection.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and if that's not possible, probably reach out to the Lions Club and see if you can get something up on the white sign. They've been good about doing that as well.
Okay.
What, do we want to narrow it down to a day of the week, or?
Right, so Thursdays, other than the first Thursday of the month, are the best nights for me. So like October 27th, and then November 10th or 17.
Time of day?
Evening.
I like October 27th.
Mm-hmm.
I like October 27th, because it's going to be after sunset, so.
Right.
Guess what he's doing?
Oh, better not be near me.
Walter got it?
Yep.
I've been a hunting widow for 41 years.
Yeah. It's
November
a shorter
rolls-
season than golf.
November rolls around and I don't see it.
So October 27. And we should also do up some kind of just flyer-ish kind of thing.
Okay,
And
he's good at that.
so if you do that, we can post it on the Berlin Facebook page and share it on Berlin Neighbors Connect.
And I'm sure you could go down to the general store and put it up on their bulletin board and even in the
Yeah.
post office.
Feel,
19 Carter,
Yep,
Right.
library.
library, all the
you know anybody at the
usual.
library? Oh,
I
yeah.
do.
Post office.
Yeah, post office.
All right, so October
Catholic stores.
27th, let's say 7:30?
Oh, I'm sorry, they're liquor stores now.
Yes.
Yep.
That sounds fine to me.
Yeah.
All
What
right.
about the high school? Would you want? Well,
I would, that's where they're real passionate about this stuff is.
I
Um,
remember 40-some years ago, kids coming home from school talking about recycling. You can't throw that away. It goes in a
Right.
pop can. No, you gotta recycle that. Yeah. So, what Ann said, that's where the passion lies.
Yeah. Just try, like, does it make sense? I don't even know who the principal is up at Tohoto anymore.
Oh, yeah, I think Diane just retired.
Tesseri, is that her name? Really?
I think she just retired last
I
year.
think so.
Wow.
Well, they
I
haven't.
can call,
Well,
I can do a little fact finding and see if I can get an appointment with
Right.
whomever it is.
And even if what you wind up doing is inviting the principal to our our thing, they can attend on Zoom, and then they can decide if they want to do more with it on their end.
Well, we talked to Holly Kennedy too, so we have to make sure to invite her.
Who's that?
Holly Kennedy.
Robin Kennedy.
Robin Kennedy.
Okay, yeah. Yes, I've already, yes.
My
Robin,
name.
Should probably
Gander.
include Lisa Mann too,
yep.
who's running against her.
Right.
Right. I would
Christy
invite
Turgeon
the
is probably the gal
superintendent
you want to talk
also.
to at Boylston. She is the executive assistant to
Kennedy.
Superintendent Zenge.
Hmm.
Turgeon, Christy, Aristi.
Okay.
And her email is kturgeon@bbrsd.org.
Thank you.
I'll be charging you for all this information. Yeah, they're not listing a principal, so.
And I can just go to these organizations and say, it's little old me, I've got this presentation, it's gonna be October 27th, and
Yeah,
they'll say, sure,
yep,
okay.
yep. Well, especially once you get the flyer kind of put together, we can, so we should get in touch with Mary to get a Zoom link.
Yep.
So once we have a Zoom link for this meeting, you can include that on the flyer.
Right.
You can email it to people.
I might just go check. Supposedly the schedule's outside the door. So
Oh,
I might
yeah.
just go check and
Yep.
make sure.
Poor Maddie. She's been 2 nights now and she's so sick. We should let her go home soon.
Oh, yeah,
But,
yeah, why she has the mask.
Yeah,
Yeah, what time?
7:30.
7:30?
If
So-
you're getting asked about Mark Hollick, HOLLICK.
So we're good. There's nothing
All
on
right.
the schedule there. So
Excellent.
I might
Right,
pencil
and yeah, and to schedule something, we just need
I'll
to
just
write it
in.
on there.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, these are all, I wouldn't have thought of all of these resources, so that's good.
You might want to get in front of Link as well. They're the parents group, so you're going to have a good connection right there to
What-
Berlin's version of the PTA.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
a mess.
Yep.
Oh, you know what, both churches, you could put posters up in both churches, they could put it in their bulletins.
Yep.
I think Mosaic might have some,
They have a bulletin board.
Mosaic does.
Right, I bet Camelot does also.
Right.
You're gonna hold this
Meadowbrook
meeting in
also
that room?
has one too.
Yeah.
And
But
the-
people are gonna
the
be able to
seniors,
attend on Zoom
Northbrook
Oh,
Village.
okay.
Yeah, it's a hybrid meeting, yeah.
Oh, is that one hybrid meeting? Got
Oh,
it.
yes.
Yep,
Right, they have both buildings have places to put posters.
Mhm.
yep.
Well, and if any of you want to deliver part of the presentation, I'm happy to share the stage, so.
Can I come up and defend myself?
No, you will always be my victim.
Awesome. And we can, keep in touch. Maybe we
sounds
should
good.
kind
Sounds
of
good.
do a
Thank you
follow-up
so
email
much,
kind of
everyone.
thing.
I really appreciate your listening to me, and as you can tell, I'm pretty passionate about this, and I've been living with it for as long as I was pregnant, actually. 9 months. Lot of work.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, when you contact Mary, ask her if she can make it part of her, one of our correspondences, so you'll get a double hit when we do our selectmen meetings.
Okay.
Or talk to Kristen, rather, she's the one who does the correspondence.
Okay. Sounds good. I got a list.
All right.
Thank you.
And you thought your work was done. Thanks for coming
No, I
in.
knew it was just starting. If we can do a plastic bag ban, we can do something else.
Right.
You know, and
Yep.
it's
I
gonna
think,
happen.
yeah, and like you and I talked about before, the education first,
Yep. Yep.
and see how much interest and passion there is for whatever levels, and see what we can do.
Yeah.
You may want to talk to, is Pete Gemelli still the, is it Gemelli?
Go to Board of Health,
Yeah.
go to Paul McKell. Don't go to
Yeah.
Pete, go to Paul.
Oh, okay.
Well, chain of command.
Oh,
no.
okay.
Dump reports up into
Gotcha.
Board of Health, so go to Board of Health.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking if you could get more specific information, especially for the local presentation of like how our recycling is being handled. I think people would be surprised by that. And then if you can get information from
You
other
know
communities
Paul.
too, that
Yeah.
would
But
be.
well,
Yeah.
You go down to the transfer station, take pictures of all the buckets of water bottles.
But I think if people understood that they weren't actually getting recycled.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know. So, and if you're right about the, people just throwing everything in, I thought it specifically said ones and twos only. But if they're just throwing everything in, then probably none of it's getting recycled because it's contaminated and it's just getting thrown out.
Right.
So,
Ends up
I don't
in
think
the-
people understand that. They're going through this whole exercise of recycling and,
Just like we did. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
we
Oh,
were
we still do, too.
every tiny little bit went in the recycling bin, and learned that it doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter.
Right.
Nope. So,
The
yeah.
next Board of Health meeting is the 18th, so maybe you can get on their agenda.
I'll ask Paul.
and they meet remotely, right?
See. Well, no, it says, board
I'm gonna
meeting
be,
first and
I'm gonna
third
be,
Tuesdays of
unfortunately,
each
I'm
month
out of town that day,
at
but
227.
Yeah, Board of Health in person.
Who is?
Yep.
Oh,
I am. I'm gonna be down in
I
Fall
could,
River.
I could say that, I suppose.
You could. You're in the Sierra Club.
Yeah.
You're a better public speaker than I am.
All right.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you. So are we done or do we?
We have just two more quick things.
Okay.
Nope.
So, community preservation plan for 2023. Oh, right, that's your forest steward or something else, yep. Still in process, I added, the only thing that you guys didn't see was the sentence I added about, the grant reimbursement.
Oh, okay, good.
So that's that. Maddie has two things. She did a site walk with Kristen from SVT, the monitoring walk of the Divine property.
Which one's that?
So it's off of, what is that, Linden? That's Linden, right?
Right.
Yeah, Linden. And basically it's just like farmland.
Right, it's
Sue.
Terrians, yeah.
Yes,
With
208
the parking lot, we
Linden.
put the parking lot in?
Right,
Yeah.
so
Oh, yeah, okay.
the rest of it, the rest of that is, yeah,
I didn't know that was that.
Yeah.
that's the Divine property,
I
yeah.
had
Yep.
no idea.
And there's,
How divine. Looks nice.
yep, and it looked great, everything. pretty much look the same. Kristen says that's one of the easiest properties to manage, to
Awesome.
look at, so.
And then, still working on, she's gonna submit so for the forestry stewardship grant, where we went through a couple of meetings ago and kind of rated our importance, she's got a map of the property also that she's gonna send with the grant. Girl goes and gets married and, you know.
Yeah, so
Um,
essentially, it'd be this property that we're looking at here, all of
Right.
this.
So, yep, so she's gonna take care of getting that sent in, and that's all we have.
Yeah, so actually, so Hillary called me today
Okay.
about some of the topics we brought up yesterday at the kickoff meeting for Horseshoe Pond. So basically, it sounds like, as far as the survey goes, from the state's perspective, it's not necessary from there.
They don't care how we handle that.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So if we want to do, that border where we actually have like a neighbor on the other side.
Right,
And just define that, that's fine by their
Okay.
standards. And also the CR too, that doesn't really matter to them, like if you have it submitted, that's good enough for them,
perfect.
unless the town needed, she said, yeah, it doesn't matter to them,
Right.
unless the town needed it for,
For something else.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
So-
Can you just let Krista and,
yep, Meredith, yeah.
okay, that's what I thought.
Yep.
Let Krista and Meredith know that feedback.
Yep.
That would be good.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
And yeah, that's all I got.
All right. You got anything?
Oh, what else is on there?
That's it.
Yeah.
You got anything?
No?
All right.
Make a motion to end the meeting at 8:44 PM.
Second.
Second.
I say you guys are a little slow on this.
It's non-debatable?
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.